Hey, welcome to African Cichlids. So today I thought we would talk about Tropheus and tank mate. And one of the questions on most forum and cichlids group online that have really controversial answers, and can you put Mbuna's African cichlids into a tank of Tropheus? And the answer is not as easy as a yes and a no. And I'm going to explain why, and it's going to depend on your situation, of course. So the Tropheus tank mate that you're going to be able to put in a tank with them is going to need to be a fish that can stand their ground, but they're also not too aggressive. So something, because most of the time the Tropheus will keep each other as their colony, and they kind of forget about whether their fish is in the tank and they won't bother them. But you also don't want a fish that is gonna get bullied and scared because there's that big colony of Tropheus moving around in your tank. So you want a fish that can stand up for itself and that won't be aggressive and start attacking your Tropheus. Like, your Tropheus are gonna defend themselves if they get attacked, but you know, you want them to thrive. So you want a fish that's on the lower end of aggressive for African cichlids, right? So the one fish that I don't have in here, so I'm not able to, unfortunately I'm not able to show you, but that's Erectromodus. And Erectromodus are little fish that are also from Lake Tanganyika, and they eat algae as well. So they're going to have the same diet and same tank parameter as your Tropheus. And usually they just hang at the bottom of your tank, so they'll just sit on the sand or sit on rocks and they'll do their own things. They're not a threat for your Tropheus. They're not competing for the same territories and all this stuff. They're gonna stay out of their ways. So those will usually work. The thing why you don't see them too often is they're really hard. They're really sensitive fish for temperature wise and all this. They're super hard to ship and to import. Usually if you import a box full of them, you might have 50% of them survive. So because of that, you don't see them too often, and they're fairly expensive. And even after they get import, if you get it import from an importer, you go pick them up, and just the travel from there to your house might also, you know, be a 50% chance of survival there. If you're able to bring them to your tank and you can put it in there, they will thrive. They're no problem at all for them to survive with your Tropheus. Now, other fish that you might be able to put in there, they are the Petricola catfish. I got 6 in this tank here. They're thriving. No problem with them. You can also put the smaller size, the Lusopini, that pretty much look like the Petricola. They will also thrive with the Tropheus. Actually, those fish are also from Lake Tanganyika. So same water parameter. They're not quite have the same diet, but if you're choosing like something kelp wafer and spirulina diet and all this stuff, they're survive. They'll grow, and you won't have any issues with them. They're a little bit more carnivorous fish, so you know, if you have them in another tank, of course they'll do even better if they're in a tank that you can feed them a little bit more meaty diet. But on the Tropheus diet, there's no problem. They will also survive. Those are all on the Tropheus diet. I don't feed them anything else than that, and yeah, they're doing very good. The other fish that will thrive with your Tropheus, or actually it's hard to see right now, hiding in this crevice here, but we see the nose of a bristlenose catfish. I have a few in there, but what's happening, it's when the light is on at full blast, they like to hide underneath the rock or in between the rocks, They're more thriving for night feeding and all this. So, and of course, if you're growing algae on the rock, then those bristlenose catfish, they will do good. Those have a little bit of armor on them, so they're tough. They're not aggressive. They will thrive in a tank like this. They're real adaptable to different water parameters. So even though those cichlids tank are really high on pH, so pH 8 and above, the bristlenose catfish have no problem adapting to that, and they're also very adaptable to different temperatures. So you know, if you keep your tank in between 76 and 82 degrees from your Fahrenheit for your Tropheus, then the bristlenose catfish will have no problem adapting to those temperatures. There's 2 or 3 in this tank, but of course the only one that I see is the nose of this one here, so I'm not able to show you too good. Now for snail wise, if you're wondering about snail, well, if you put mystery snail or any snail like this, that's going to be all over your glass and your rock and your substrate. The Tropheus are going to be very curious and go pick at it, and those snails are not going to do too good. Now if you're having some trumpet snail hiding in your sand or something like this, you know, the Tropheus won't really notice them, and they're not going to really pay attention to them. But you can put some assassin snail in there that's going to take care of those trumpet snail, and the Tropheus won't really care about the assassin snail too, because most of the time the assassin snail is also going to bury itself partly into the substrate or in the sand there, and then they'll just come out later on to hunt. They're not troubled with the fish, they're not hunting fish, they're just hunting other snails. So they're pretty much going to be on the same timeline that your other snail, like your trumpet snail in there. To try to hunt them, they'll get up in the same time when those snails are coming out, and that's what they will eat. Now as for the tank mate that is recommended, it's pretty much it. But now with the, you know, other controversial question, like, can you mix Tropheus with other Tropheus? Well, Tropheus, if there's any other kind of Tropheus in the tank, they're going to usually mate together. So you're gonna end up having hybrid, and this is not really recommended, right? You want to try to keep this species pure usually. And then the other thing that's gonna happen is if you put 2 colonies together, usually you're going to have one colony that is stronger and more dominant than the other colony. So then it will like kind of push the other colony into the other corner there. And they will fight with each other, even though they're not the same color. Even though Tropheus don't care about other fish, they will care about other Tropheus. Now, so this said, what about if you put Mbuna with them? Well, the trouble with it, there's plus or minus with it. So if you didn't have enough money to buy a big Tropheus colony, 12 or more, and really 12 sometimes doesn't even work, so 20 or more is better, because they will fight a lot in between each other. So you want to spread the aggression as much as you can. So 20 or more would be perfect. But now if you cannot do this, because they're really expensive fish, in another video I explain a little bit why, and it's pretty much like they don't have too much babies at the time. Babies take about a year to grow to 1 or 2 inch to be comfortable to go back into the group. So because of that, you know, they're fairly expensive. Other thing too, they're not that easy to import to your country, so you know they're not as widely available as other fish. So the cost of them kind of rise because of that, right? So if you cannot have enough, and let's say you just want to buy 3 or 6 or whatever, you can put them, and I'm going to get hit with for saying that, but you can put them with African cichlids, and I would put them with Mbuna, which have the same diet. And if you feed the diet that your Tropheus need, then you don't have to worry about it. Like, even if you get a omnivore Mbuna, if you're serving it only herbivore food, they're gonna thrive anyway. So there's no problem there. The thing that you have to watch for is you need to have the Mbuna species that are the less aggressive as possible on the spectrum of aggressivity for Mbuna. So those ones that I would suggest would be the ACI. And the ACI are pretty docile for Mbuna. Of course, they're still African cichlids, they're still aggressive, but they're pretty much going to keep for their own, and the Tropheus are going to keep for their own. They're not really going to fight that much. They might chase each other a little bit for territory and move, you know, hey, you get out of my little breeding spot that I'm making in the sand or something like that. But for biting each other, they're not really going to bite or attack each other. Now, some people would put them with yellow lab. Trouble with yellow lab is more an insectivore, so they'll thrive more if you have a higher meaty protein diet, but it could work. The thing is, sometimes you'll have like some of the yellow lab that are really docile, and sometimes you can get one that is fairly aggressive. And you know, in between Tropheus and yellow lab, if there's a fight because your yellow lab is too dominant in that tank, it's like for a Tropheus, because of the mouth is underneath their face, they have to raise like high up to be able to fight. So usually if you see two Tropheus fighting, you'll see them at a triangle angle, and that's how they fight. While if you see two yellow lab fighting, they'll be face to face because their mouth is at front of their face, it's pointy, so they'll be more like this. So now it would be like, for the Tropheus, it would be like bringing a pocket knife into a sword fight against, you know, the yellow lab. So they're going to, you know, pretty much lose the fight every time. So because of that, it's not really recommended. Like, you can get away with it in some scenario, but you know, you should stay away from those. So the ACI, there's the yellow-tailed one or the white-tailed one. They're both going to work. They're mostly docile. Now the trick is going to be to put as many as you can in the tank. Like, fill up that tank way stock, so that you know, they're busy doing stuff in between their own species, and they're kind of not bothering with the other species. The Tropheus usually are going to look at the Mbuna and kind of just look past it. Sorry. If there's two male Tropheus, that's why you should have at least 6 Tropheus if you're going to do that. The more the merrier, but at least 6, 9 would be even better if you're going to mix them with Mbuna. But if you have your tank like way stuck, so you would say like at least 20 fish in a 75 gallon, 25 to 30 would be even better. So even though your Tropheus is gonna see the other Tropheus around the tank on the other side, by the time he gets to it, there's so many fish going around that he's gonna lose track, and then they're not going to fight as much. So because of that, you can have a little bit less fish, like less Tropheus into a tank mix like that, and it's gonna work. We're doing it with the Bamba upstairs, like in Martin's room. You saw it, I don't know if you saw that video, but the Bamba with white-tailed ACI, there's pretty much 9 and 9 for each group, and it's been working fine for a few years now. So you know, don't have to worry about doing it like that. And I put those red rainbow when I just had like the first 3 that I bought. At first they were with Mbuna and I was working, and I also did that with a little group of 6 Morio firecracker, and that worked good. but this was like full of stone all the way to the top. They're flagstone, so lots of hiding space in there. Fish were able to hide and run around the rocks and stuff and kind of lose each other when they're fighting, so that was working pretty good there. So anyway, that's the big answer. So yeah, if you can afford it and you can get the big colony in your tank, just do that. Big colony, not too much other stuff in there. That's the best scenario. If you cannot afford it and you still want to have those Tropheus in your tank, then yeah, you can mix them. Watch out with your mixing it. And then yeah, just try to get the less aggressive Mbuna out there. I will mix them with peacocks and app. Even though peacocks might be a little bit less aggressive than Mbuna, it won't work because of the diet. So you know, your apps and peacocks will not thrive on a vegetarian diet. So because of that, it might not work that good. Now, if you're doing that though, as for breeding, because you have the mix like this and there's not too much of each species, the breeding of the Tropheus might be even like as less as 0. Like you might never be able to breed them in a situation like this. Usually if you want to breed them, then you're just going to have a female with a huge colony of female. So this is the way to do it. But if you're not like a breeder or you don't care about breeding your fish, then yeah, go ahead, you can mix them up together. All right, so yeah, I thought that we needed to clear that up because there's so many people out there on forum and group that are just like, no, don't do it, and they won't tell you why. And I bet you that half of them, they just know the golden rule and they have no idea why, right? So, you know, now at least you know the reason why, you know what to do to try it. And yeah, best of luck if that's the way that you're going to go. And then, yeah, that's it. So we'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.